What's up, Dream Builder? Welcome back to another episode in the series of Freestyle Fridays. I'm your boy Casanova, and I appreciate you all listening. Of course, I said that I wanted these Freestyle Fridays to be something that was just on my mind, on my heart every single week. And so this week, I'm going to talk to you guys about something that's personal to me. I don't want to make it seem too dramatic, let me be real. But it was something that, for anybody who knows, my best friend for sure is CJ. I'm very close with both of my kids. I think our family as a whole is very close, but I'm very close with CJ. Obviously, we share the same name, but I definitely feel like we share the same heart, soul, and he's so much of a better version than me. But I wanted to talk to you guys about how I always try to instill the belief in him. And I think why is because this is very important for all parents or anybody who considers themselves to be a provider or a guardian or caregiver, whatever it might be. And so I'll tell you, for CJ and I, basketball season is just starting up again. And I'll tell you, when we first moved down here to Dallas, getting adjusted from Nebraska in the basketball world is not an easy feat, especially for young kids. I think in terms of the basketball scene back in Nebraska, it's a lot less physical, right? You're not finding as many scrappy kids. The refs aren't letting you play as much. Coaches are really trying to teach the game as like pass and cut and more fundamental. Now, that's not to say that people don't teach it down here the same way, but you find it fewer and further between. And so I think for CJ, that was a big adjustment for him. One, he's already kind of more of a frail kid, right? So he just doesn't have a lot of meat on his bones, but he's a hell of an athlete. He's fast. He's quick. He understands the game. He's very smart. He understands angles. And that's just not in basketball. I mean, when it comes to school, very smart, gifted and talented program, 3 different school districts in the last 3 years. And, he's found his way into the talented and gifted program in all 3 of them. And so shout out to him. But I mean, in terms of sports, golf, basketball, soccer, football, he just crushes it all around. But in the game of basketball, you either need to be tall or you need to have some weight on you, or you need to be that much smarter and quick on your decisions. And so when you talk about the physicality of the game, I think that's a big deal for a lot of kids, because when you are, especially, I can only speak for down here right now, but I think I could speak for, a lot of major markets, because it's all the same, especially with being in Nebraska, where Omaha is like a small to medium-sized market, but now when you're down here in Dallas, obviously it's a major market. And so when we got down here and understanding that a lot of these kids are now reclassing, and for people who don't know what reclassing is, that basically just means being held back, right? A lot of these parents now are making the decision that, they feel like regardless of academics, they're going to hold their kid back. And so a 7th grader is really playing 6th grade, or 8th grader sometimes is even playing 6th grade, which is crazy, I know, right? So for somebody like CJ, you're already on the smaller side, even for your own age, and now you're having to play against kids that are 2 years older than you and have already hit puberty and things like that. Like, it's crazy. And so for CJ, it was a big adjustment. And I'll tell you, last year when we first got down here, we played for, at that time, it was the number 2 team in the country. And we constantly were losing to only good teams in the beginning. Towards the end of the year, it kind of unraveled for us. But that had nothing to do with the boys. But in the beginning, we were losing to one team in particular that was very physical, right? And I say that to say, for CJ, it took a lot of his confidence, right, when he would play against bigger kids. And so we're now kicking off this season, and he started out really good until we played a team that was 1 grade up, right? And some of these kids were 8th grade, and some of these kids were 7th grade. But for CJ, he then went into a little bit of, scared mode. And there's 2 lessons that I wanted to share that I think for anybody listening to this right now, you could maybe, help out somebody else that is going through this, especially in the world of sports, where it's not about the sport, which I tell CJ all the time. How you do anything is how you do everything. And sports really are there to teach you life lessons. And so the first lesson to CJ was, right now, because he was like, he didn't want to play in that game because this was in between games. We had 2 games on the Saturday. And so after the first game, he basically didn't feel like he played very well. So he got all emotional. And he was like, can we just go? Like, I just want to go to the gym. And I'm like, you had the opportunity to go to the gym for what, 5-6 weeks, right? And before, like, I would always be like, hey, let's go. But now that he's getting older, as I told him, like, I'm gonna allow you to be able to tell me when you want to go. Like, I'm not gonna keep pushing you at this thing. As you get older, you're gonna understand that it's just like going to college. Like, nobody, and granted, he's only 6th grade, but it's just like going to college. At some point, it's gonna be you, right? You're becoming a young man now. You got all of these luxuries, you got all of these amenities, you got the games, you got the phones, you got all of this, you got your friends, you got all these different things. So now you can figure out, right, what's important to you. And so that was a lesson for him, because I was like, you see, like, I've told you that you got to stay in the gym because guys are coming, they're coming faster, and you chose not to take advantage of that. So, now this is you not believing, as my grandma would always say when I was growing up, this is you not believing that doo-doo stinks. You got to go there and smell it. Well, you smelled that, right? So it's kind of that first thing of understanding that it's going to be tough for them because they're going to have a rude awakening, but you got to let them go through that, right? You can tell them up front, but make sure that on the backside, it doesn't have to be necessarily I told you so, but it does have to be this is what happens, right? So that's kind of the first thing. And then the second thing was understanding that they can't run from the pain, right? And so for a lot of us, we just tend to shut down whenever something goes wrong. But at that very moment, you got to ask yourself, who are you, right? Are you a lion or are you a gazelle? Because every single morning, lions got to get up and they're going to hunt. Gazelles are going to get up and they're going to run. They know that they're running for their life that day. So you got to ask yourself, who am I? Right? And if you are, a mother, a father, an older brother, older sister, right? Whatever it is, you got to ask whoever that person is that you're talking to, ask them, are they a lion or are they a gazelle? Because if they're a lion, that means they got to take the good with the bad, and they got to get up, they got to yawn, but they got to understand that today I got to go hunt. Because the only way that I eat, that my family eats, right, is, and granted, like, hear me when I say this. I understand that you could be talking to a 10-year-old. You could be talking to an 8-year-old. You could be talking to a 15-year-old. So you have to put that into perspective. But the principle still remains the same. You're building the foundation of who they are, right? I always say who you are and what you stand for. Those are the 2 principles in life. And so you can't run from it, because as they get older, they're not going to be able to run from it. They're going to have a lot of bad shit, right, that happens to them, that they got to be able to figure out, how do I fight through this? How do I weather this storm? And so that's what I will leave you with. I just wanted to leave you with those 2 nuggets today. That's something that happened with CJ and I think that he took it very well. He played a lot better in that second game, but it also taught him a couple lessons. We have these type of conversations all the time, but I definitely think, again, for you, if you're listening to this, remember those principles, because I think that not only can it help you, but it can help someone else that's coming behind you. So that's all for this one, DreamNation. Remember, in the dream we trust, but you got to take action on something, because otherwise that dream that you have, we all have a dream. Without any action, it'll only merely be a fantasy. That's all for this one. We'll catch you on the next one.